こんにちは。今日のクラスに来てくれたからありがとうございます。今日は日本語3と4第一試験の練習をしています。Okay, so thanks for coming. Today we're practicing the speaking portion of the Japanese 3 and 4 first exam of 2011. And this video will be split into two parts. First part covering items 1 through 7 on your goal sheet. The next video covering items 8 through 15. Remember, to be successful on the exam, you need to do at least 10 of these items perfectly. Okay. So let's go ahead and 始めましょう。じゃあ、1番。I can ask for and say I have experience doing something or don't have experience doing something using ことがあります and ことがありません. Okay. So to use these, you need to be able to attach verbs to them. And remember that we use the ta form of the verb. Ta form is just like te form, only with ta instead of te. And it's also known as simple past form. For example, ite, going, ita, went. Tabete, eating, tabeta, ate. So all you need to do to use this form successfully is to use the ta form of the verb plus koto ga arimasu. To ask me a question using koto ga arimasu, you might say, 日本へ行ったことがありますか? 日本へ行ったことがありますか? Have you been to Japan before? Which I would reply, はい、日本へ行ったことがあります。I've been to Japan. Or いいえ、日本へ行ったことがありません。I haven't been to Japan. そして2番にしよう。So I can use でしょ to connotate two different meanings. This is done with the tone of your voice. Remember, high tone でしょ means like, isn't it? But like flat tone or low tone でしょ means probably. Okay. So for an example, 今日は涼しいでしょ? 今日は涼しいでしょ? It's cool today, isn't it? 今日は雨が降るでしょ? 今日は雨が降るでしょ? It will probably rain today. 3番, I can conjugate 5 verbs in the dictionary form, nai form, ta form, and the kata form. I'm going to give you 6 examples, 2 for each verb group. So starting with the group 1 verbs, hanashimasu. Hanashimasu, to speak. Hanasu, dictionary form. Hanasanai, nai form. Hanashita, ta form. Hanasanakatta, past negative form. Okay, so one thing you want to remember with group 1 verbs, in the nai form, notice I didn't say hanashinai, hanashinai. I said hanasanai. So for group 1 verbs, when you do nai form, remember that you're going from an e sound to a sound. Hanasanai, hanasanakatta. Another example of a group 1 verb would be the verb kikimasu, to ask or to listen. Kikimasu, kiku, kikanai, kiita, kikanakatta. Okay. So moving right along to group 2. Group 2 is easier than group 1 because you only have to change the ending. You don't really have to change any part of the basic verb itself. So tabemasu, to eat. Taberu, tabenai, tabeta, tabenakatta. Mimasu, to see or to watch. Miru, minai, mita, minakatta. Okay, group 3 is that weirdo group. There's only 2 verbs in group 3. The first one we'll look at is shimasu, to do. Dictionary form suru, nai form shinai, ta form shita, and past negative shinakatta, shinakatta. So with this one, it acts just like a group 2 verb, except for the dictionary form, which is suru. And the second group 3 verb, kimasu, to come. Kimasu, kuru, dictionary form. Konai, nai form. Kita, ta form. Konakata, past negative. So, that's a real weird one. If you can do kimasu correctly, sensei will be sure to mark you higher, because that's a difficult one to do. Ja, so 4番. I can give an example of a transitive verb and intransitive verb sentence. Basically, for a transitive verb, you need an agent to make it happen. Usually it's a person. For intransitive, you don't need an agent to make it happen. It just sort of happens by itself. For example, watashi wa shukudai o dashita. Watashi wa shukudai o dashita. I took out my homework. Shukudai ga deta. Shukudai ga deta. The homework came out, which would be weird. But that's just an extreme example, because obviously, like, homework can't come out of a bag by itself. And going to, like, starting and ending. Watashi wa shiai o hajimeta. Watashi wa shiai o hajimeta. And transitive, shiai ga hajimata. Shiai ga hajimata. So I started the game with intransitive. Intransitive, I had nothing to do with starting the game. And the last one we're going to look at is using owaru. So, watashi wa shiai o owatta. I ended the game. Shiai ga owatta. The game ended by itself. And you notice that the verb form itself doesn't really change with owaru, but the particle does change. Most of the time, transitive, you use o for the particle, and intransitive, you use ga for the particle. Ja. I can talk about how many times someone does something in 1 week. Watashi wa 1週間に5度日本語を勉強します。Watashi wa 1週間に5回日本語を勉強します。So I study Japanese 5 times a week. If you want to say as much as many as, you would add mo in this way. Watashi wa 1週間に5度も日本語を勉強します。私は1週間に5回も日本語を勉強します。So I study Japanese as many as 5 times a week. And that's another tip. If you use mo, sensei is going to mark you highly. So, ja, I can talk about taking, bringing, and returning inanimate objects. This goes back to before when we learned about arimasu and imasu, that Japanese people are really specific about whether the object is inanimate or animate. And, you know, as before with arimasu and imasu, sometimes that means different vocabulary are used. 例えば、私は飴を持っていく。私は飴を持っていく。So, I take candy. 私は飴を持ってくる。私は飴を持ってくる。I bring candy. 私は飴を持って帰る。私は飴を持って帰る。I return with candy. And then moving on to animate objects, which usually means people. I can say, 私は弟を連れて行く. So I take my brother to the party. 私は弟を連れてくる. I bring my brother. 私は弟を連れて連れて帰る. I return with my brother. So hopefully you found that helpful for addressing items 1 through 7 on our goal sheet, and we'll talk about goals 8 through 15 in the next video. じゃあ、またね。